There is a silent tragedy unfolding in the modern search for connection, one that most men do not realize they are participating in until the damage to their dignity is already done. We are told to pursue, to prove ourselves, to perform, and to chase. But what if the very act of chasing is what causes the things we desire to run away from us? By the end of this journey, you will understand the singular, counterintuitive shift that transforms a man from a desperate pursuer into an unshakable, compelling presence, and why the fourth sign we will discuss is the one almost everyone gets wrong. Let us begin by looking at a fundamental truth of human psychology. We do not value that which is cheap, easily bought, or constantly begging for our attention. We value that which possesses inherent dignity, boundaries, and a sense of gravity. When we look at the ancient teachings of Stoicism, we find a blueprint not for isolation, but for a profound, self-contained strength that naturally commands respect from others. Consider the first pillar of this mindset, refusing to tolerate disrespect. This is where the foundation of many relationships begins to crumble before they even take form. Imagine sitting at a table in a crowded room. Someone makes a subtle, mocking comment at your expense, disguised as a joke. Most men in our modern culture have been trained to laugh it off, to swallow their pride, or to pretend it did not happen, all in the hope of keeping the peace or remaining likable. But every time you tolerate a breach of your basic dignity, you trade a piece of your self-respect for temporary approval. This trade is always a losing bargain. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. When you accept disrespect, your internal world becomes colored by the belief that you deserve to be treated lightly. A man grounded in Stoicism does not react with loud anger, defensive shouting, or emotional outbursts. Instead, he establishes an invisible, unyielding wall. He addresses the behavior calmly, directly, and with a quiet authority that requires no dramatic gestures. He makes it clear that his presence is a privilege and that a boundary crossed without accountability is a door closed forever. Have you ever caught yourself laughing off a slight, hoping it would make you seem easygoing, only to feel a quiet resentment building inside? True connection cannot exist where respect is absent, and respect cannot exist where boundaries are fluid. This leads us to a deeper psychological trap, the mirage of external validation. Many of us carry a quiet, persistent hunger to be told we are enough. We seek it in the eyes of others, in the promptness of their replies, and in their fluctuating moods. When we do not receive this validation, a frantic instinct takes over. We try harder. We become agreeable. We bend our values to fit their expectations. But the philosopher Seneca warned that true happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence on the future. When you depend on another person to validate your worth, you hand them the keys to your emotional sovereignty. You become highly reactive, shifting like water to fit whatever container they choose to put you in. This reactivity is the absolute opposite of attraction. It signals that your internal foundation is fragile. When you refuse to chase validation, a quiet revolution occurs. You accept that your worth is non-negotiable and entirely self-determined. You engage with others not to fill an empty cup, but to share a cup that is already overflowing. This shifts your energy from a desperate plea of "look at me" to a grounded state of "here I am." But what happens when we do find a connection we care about? This is where the third, highly common danger lies, the temptation to lose yourself entirely. Picture a man who has built a meaningful life. He has his work, his friendships, his physical discipline, and his philosophical pursuits. Then, he meets someone who captivates him. Slowly, Almost imperceptibly, his world begins to shrink. He stops attending his training sessions. He neglects his creative projects. He answers his phone at any hour of the night, abandoning his sleep and his routines. He believes this total devotion is the highest expression of love. It is not. It is self-abandonment. When you erase your own world to fit into someone else's, you destroy the very landscape that made you compelling in the first place. A healthy relationship is not two halves merging into a shapeless whole. It is two distinct, complete individuals walking side by side down a shared path. Epictetus taught that no great thing is created suddenly. The same is true for a lasting, respectful partnership. It is built on the daily preservation of your character, your purpose, and your individual identity. If you abandon your kingdom, do not be surprised when others find the ruins uninviting. If you have made it this far, what comes next is the part almost nobody gets right. This is the fourth pillar, the refusal to over-explain yourself. Have you ever noticed how, when we feel insecure, we speak too much? We make a decision, we set a limit, or we simply state an opinion, and then we immediately follow it with a flood of justifications. We explain why we did it, why we had to, and why we hope they are not upset. We turn ourselves into a defense attorney pleading a case before a judge who never even asked for a trial. Over-explaining is a subtle, subconscious confession of guilt. It reveals that you do not trust your own authority. It signals that your choices are only valid if they are approved by an external jury. Stoicism teaches us to speak only when necessary and to let our actions do the heavy lifting. If you decide not to attend an event, a simple, respectful decline is sufficient. If you choose a certain path in life, you do not need to write a dissertation to justify it to someone else. Speak with clarity, speak with honesty, and then allow the silence to exist. The ability to sit comfortably in silence, without needing to fill the air with nervous explanations, is one of the most profound displays of internal strength a man can possess. This brings us to the currency of modern life, availability. We live in an era of constant connectivity, where a message can reach us in seconds. Many men believe that being instantly available, answering every call, and rearranging their entire calendar at a moment's notice is a sign of high interest and care. In reality, it often communicates something entirely different, that your time has no value, that you have no pressing obligations, and that your life lacks a central, driving purpose. Seneca wrote extensively about the shortness of life, urging us to guard our time more fiercely than our property. People will protect their money with high walls and security, yet they allow others to waste their days and hours without a second thought. When you treat your time as cheap, others will treat it as disposable. This is not about playing manipulative psychological games or pretending to be busy to create artificial scarcity. It is about actually being engaged in something greater than yourself. It is about having a mission, a duty, or a craft that demands your focus. When a man is dedicated to his growth and his responsibilities, his time naturally becomes valuable. His availability is not a weapon of manipulation, but a precious resource that must be earned through mutual respect and investment. This leads us to the final, unifying principle, the absolute refusal to chase. Chasing is an active statement of lack. When you chase an animal, it runs. When you chase a dream without strategy, it eludes you. And when you chase another human being, you implicitly declare that they are the prize and you are the competitor who is not quite good enough. You place them on a pedestal, and from that height, they can only look down on you. Stoicism invites you to step off the track entirely. It invites you to stop running, to stop begging, and to stop striving for things outside of your direct control. Instead of chasing, you cultivate. Imagine a gardener who spends his days chasing butterflies with a net. He tires himself out, tears his clothes, and usually ends up with nothing. Now, imagine a different gardener. He ignores the butterflies and focuses entirely on the soil. He plants beautiful flowers, waters them, pulls the weeds, and builds a magnificent, fragrant garden. Soon, the butterflies do not need to be chased. They fly to him, of their own accord, because he created an environment where they want to be. This is the ultimate secret of non-pursuit. You do not force connection. You do not plead for attention. You build a life of such character, depth, and purpose that your presence becomes an undeniable sanctuary in a chaotic world. You become the mountain, unmoving and grounded, while the weather of other people's opinions and moods drifts by. So, examine your own life today. Where have you been chasing? Where have you been trading your dignity for a moment of attention? It is time to stop the pursuit. It is time to turn inward, to fortify your mind, and to start refusing the things that diminish your soul. If these thoughts have brought you clarity, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a comment below. Share which of these principles resonated with you the most, or where you have struggled in the past. Your reflections help build a community of men striving for self-mastery. Until next time, stay strong, stay grounded, and remain true to your path.